All right. Hello, it's Mr. Turek. I'm going to walk you through the next project you have to do for painting, which is just value. I just call them value assignments. It's a simple value painting. And if you're wondering why are we doing a value painting, we kind of already know some of this stuff, and it's pretty simple stuff. But I want you to sort of ease into painting. And this is a good review, and it's a good way for me to sort of like see how you paint and where your weaknesses and strengths lie. And it's kind of a challenge to paint value with these projects. These aren't super straightforward projects. There's quite a bit of challenge to them. So you have two options. The first option is the posterized painting over here, and then the second option is just a straight up still life painting, monochromatic still life painting. Okay. And both of these painting options are monochromatic for a reason, so that you just sort of focus on making simple value mixtures. That's kind of the core objective for both of these projects, is maintaining and sort of like keeping a consistent value scale. So for the posterized monochromatic painting, you're going to posterize an image online, or you can get your image from online, but you're going to posterize it using Photoshop. There you go. Making the reference I'll show you how to do, and there's resources online for you to use. And then you're going to transfer that image to your canvas. It can be pretty much any size. It has to be at least 9 by 12 or larger. And your transfer method can be any method you prefer. So you can trace it, you can project it using the projector, you can use a grid, or you can freehand it. Doesn't really matter. But you want to start out with a posterized image. I'll show you how to do that coming up here. Posterized image. Hello, it's me. Not the best picture, but whatever. You'll deal. A posterized image is an image that kind of takes all the color in a photograph and it sort of like flattens it to sort of like steps, or just flat areas of value. So you can see the one in color on the right here. This is all full color, full value, and the one on the right has been, or the one on the left is full color. The one on the right has been posterized. So all the values have been like flattened to little areas of color. So there's light gray, then there's this medium gray, and then a sort of medium gray, and then a 50-50 gray. So everything's been kind of flattened for you. And this makes it really easy to paint it, because it sort of tells you what value goes where. The posterization process is really simple. You're going to use Photoshop. This is an example of a student's image that they posterized in Photoshop, and then here's their painting on the right hand side. Here's literally right here. These are the steps you use to posterize your image. It's like 2-3 steps. Very, very simple. Alright, so now I'm going to actually show you how to posterize an image file. If you want to do this assignment, kind of stick with me here, and I'll walk you through how to save an image to your desktop and posterize it with Photoshop. I'll also show you how to use some resources on the Art with Turek website. So even if you don't want to do this project, kind of stick around and watch part of this demo here to sort of see some cool resources on the web. Alright, so welcome back. Here's some student examples, or finished student examples of posterized paintings. Assuming you have your image ready, this is kind of what your painting would look like when you're finished painting it. At the very end of this video, I'll have painting demonstrations, so just sort of stay with me here. Here's student examples from last year. Some really well-made examples. Notice the crisp edges, the nicely delineated steps of value. Some really good examples here. Here's another student example. Here you can tell the students actually using the grid to transfer their image, and they chose to make, instead of black and white, they chose to make their monochromatic image purple, black and white. Here's another example using the grid. You also have the option, if you don't want to use watercolors or if you don't want to use acrylics, you can use watercolors to do your posterized image. This particular example only has one level of posterization. You need at least 5 levels of posterization. So try to, make it more complex than what you see here. But you can do it in watercolors. And watercolors, depending on how well you are at making like transparent washes or opaque washes, they may look kind of splotchy like this, so it's a little bit harder to control. But if you master it with watercolors, you're really going to have it down for when you try stuff with our acrylics. So it might be kind of a challenge for those of you who are kind of advanced. Your other option for the value assignments is to paint a monochromatic still life. And again, monochromatic just means one color, one chroma. Mono meaning one and chroma meaning color. So you pick one color, or just do black and white, or one color in black and white, and you set up a still life and you just sort of paint it as you see it. If you're not a very good draftsman and you can't draw observationally, I highly recommend you don't do this if you're kind of worried about making it appear realistic or natural looking. But I don't necessarily mind if you don't get the form 100% perfect. What I care about is, do you get the full range of value that you see in your still life? So here are some student examples. This obviously was probably a class still life that was set up that class everybody could look at. So that's why these paintings look kind of similar. If you want to get with a group of friends and sort of make one still life and paint that as a group, you can. That's kind of what I recommend, so that you can leave it set up and that there's some consistency there. But notice it's just one color and white and black. I think these are one color and white, but you can use black in addition to your color and white if you want. The practical application of this is actually pretty relevant. Here's some more student examples. The practical application for this is what's called a grisaille. A grisaille is a monochromatic underpainting that you use when layering paint with oil paints. So you only use one color and no white or black, and you just sort of like do a quick little underpainting. It's kind of like a sketch you do before you start your genuine painting. And then you can actually layer colors on top of this. With acrylics you can do this, but you have to use like a gel medium if you want it to work. And then it's primarily used for oils. So these skills do have practical application to other techniques in painting later on, but for now just focus on controlling your value range and having a full set of like 10 or more values for your monochromatic still life. Now I'm going to switch over to some demonstrations of some stuff I want you to try when you're doing your value paintings. Alright, I'm going to show you some of the basics of how to use resources on the Art with Turk website, and I'm going to show you how to posterize an image file with Photoshop. So first things first, you got to get to my website. The easiest way to do this is through Google. I'm going to use Chrome since Google is the default search engine there. And when you search in Google, you're going to want to search Art with Turk, all one word. The reason for this is because my website is built with Google Sites, which is another service Google offers that's free. And it's just not going to turn up on Yahoo or Bing. It's not that popular, so you got to search it with Google if you want to find it easily. It should be the first hit if you search Art with Turk, all one word. And then once you click on that top hit, it should bring you straight to the website. The first page on the website is news. This news section I'll update as frequently as I can with student projects and other events in the art department here. If you explore these tabs, these will give you tons of information about the classes I teach. But if you want to use resources for the painting class, the easiest way to get to that class page is this link down here underneath classes. Just click on the painting link. When you get to the page, most of the text in here is just from the syllabus. You can read it if you want. But if you scroll down to the project section, each of these little headings here is hyperlinked to resources you can use for the class. So like if you want to watch a video for a demonstration, you can click on the video link. If you click on the project group name for a particular project, that'll bring you to the PowerPoint presentation that I use to make the lecture videos. Some of these lecture PowerPoints are kind of outdated. Like I've added maybe 1 or 2 extra slides to the video versions of them. So don't worry about that. They're pretty much the exact same assignment. So all the data in the criterion objective section, I mean, all that's the same. It's just a little bit different in the lecture presentation. So and then some of these project names here will actually have resources for the project. So if you want to do the posterized portrait for your value assignment, you can see it's one of the options listed next to the project group here. And if you click on it, it'll bring you to a brief tutorial on how to posterize an image file in Photoshop. Now this version is 6 steps long, and the one I'm going to show you right now in this video is going to be a little bit different than this version. You can still use this if you prefer reading steps and looking at pictures to my voice, which can be kind of annoying, I guess, after a while probably. But yeah, this is another available option if you want to do it that way. If you click on any of these links, you can check out projects we're going to do in the future. If you scroll all the way down, there's more links for the project, you know, PowerPoint presentation files in Google Drive down here. There's other resources, so like the painting shared folder, I might put extra files in here that I want to share with you. Right now, all that's in there are a couple of the tutorials from previous projects. Another great resource down here that's featured right here is the Painter link dump. So if you click on the Painter link dump, this is a folder filled with thousands of links of painters. The only reason I'm showing you this right now is because I think it's a great resource. If you ever get stuck or run out of ideas, just download some of these links and just explore some of these artist websites, because these are really inspiring artists that I like a lot. And there are some of the artists that I actually feature in some of the lecture presentations. So check those out if you want. So right now, I'm going to show you how to posterize an image in Photoshop. But to do that first, I need an image file. So if you're a student, you're probably not going to have files on your computer, so you're going to search the web for them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new tab here. And I'm just going to search some random celebrity I know there's lots of photos of. Let's just do Kanye West. Why not? Okay, and I want to, you know, do an image search, and I want to make sure I have a high resolution image of him. So if you check these thumbnails right here, the resolution for each image is given out in these numbers down here. So this one's like 617 pixels by 409 pixels. I think I can find larger ones than that. So to do that, you're going to want to go to the search tools here, and you go to size, and you click large. And this is going to guarantee that every image that pops up is a high resolution image. And you can tell when you hover over the thumbnails that they're at least 1,000 pixels in one direction. So I'm going to use this one. And you don't want to save, you don't want to right click and save the thumbnail file, because that's a small file. You want to click on the view image button. This will give you the full resolution file. So right click on this, click save image as. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to save it somewhere on your desktop or some other place that's easy to find. If you want to save it to your H drive, you can. I'm going to save mine on my desktop. Click save. It'll download down here. Okay. And then I'm going to minimize my browser window and switch to Photoshop. To open Photoshop, you're going to go to the Start menu, All Programs, and then kind of scroll down. Photoshop should be in the Adobe Design Standard CS6 folder. I have CS5, which is a version earlier than CS6. So if you click on that folder, Adobe Photoshop should be available here. If you can't find that, click down here in this search bar and just type Photoshop, and it should be the first hit. You're going to want to run Photoshop. And mine's going to pop right up because it's already running, but for you it's going to take a while to load if you're just starting it. Then we got to open our photo file. So to do that, you're going to go File, Open, and you're going to go to wherever you saved that file. I've saved mine to the desktop, so I'm on the desktop. And I'll open up my file, click on the file name, click Open, and it should pop right open. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make our image file black and white. So to do that, you're going to make an adjustment layer. And this is a little bit, again, this is a little bit different than the tutorial that's on the website that you can read. So to make an adjustment layer, you're going to click on this little black and white circle button on the bottom of your layers panel. Your layers palette should be right here on the right hand side. If you don't see it, go to Window and click on Layers here to make it show up. So I'm going to click New Adjustment Layer button. It's again small middle right there, and I'm going to make a black and white layer. What this will allow me to do is adjust what's black and white and how dark it is. So I can adjust these values if I want. You can always come back to that. Let's go to our layers palette again, and now we're going to posterize it. So I'm going to go back to the create a new fill or adjustment layer button in the middle there, and I'm going to posterize it. Okay, so the default here is 4, and you want to set it to a little bit higher than that. So set it to like 6. Between 5 and 10 layers. If you go higher than 10, you'll notice that it starts to look exactly like your photo. It's got a little bit too much detail in there. So keep it below 10. Keep it something manageable, because remember, you are painting this, so every value step you have to make a separate mixture for. So I'd keep it around 5, 6, 7, something like that. When you find something you're happy with, you can go back to your layers panel and you can adjust either of these adjustment layers by just double clicking on them. So if I want to go back to my black and white one, I can just double click on that adjustment layer and make my yellow darker or lighter, and you can see that's changing how my photo looks here. Again, this is different than the tutorial in that it's adjustable at any point in time. When you're happy with that, you can crop it. So the crop tool is over here. You just click and drag to use your crop tool. Yours is going to be a little bit different in CS6, so I'm going to click and drag to get mine going here, and then to confirm it, I'm going to commit my crop. Okay, so I think I'm happy with this. I don't want to adjust anything else in my layers here, so I'm going to go File, Save or Save As. If you want to save it as a Photoshop file, you can only adjust it on computers in the Art Computer Lab here. So you're going to have to save it to your H drive, and then make sure you only adjust it or open it on computers with Photoshop on it. If you want to print it from any computer in the school, you're going to want to save it as a JPEG. And again, if you want to access it, save it to your H drive. That's the personal drive that's attached to your INE number that you log in when you log into a computer. So pretend that's saved, and then we're going to print it. So File, Print. Okay, and then your print dialog box for CS6 is actually going to be a little bit different than mine. Notice my image is a little bit too big here, so I'm going to check the scale to fit media box. This is going to shrink it to the size of my paper. You can change the orientation of your paper if your picture is a little wider than it is tall. And then you want to make sure that your printer is set to 201 BW from the printer options box here. So I'm going to set mine to 201 BW and then click Print if I'm happy with it. This is pretty much all you need to know and do. You can print a couple copies, and then you got to transfer your image to your canvas and start painting. Okay, for the value assignment, you have two choices. You can do the still life, a monochromatic still life, or you can do the monochromatic posterized portrait. And again, you don't have to posterize a portrait. You can posterize anything, animal, whatever. I'm actually going to kind of walk you through some things you should consider while you do this. I'm painting, of course, in my sketchbook. You have better surface options available to you. Again, poster board, the canvas board, or you can paint on mat board or whatever. But I got my palette right here, and I got my reference right here, and just a quick sketch, a really rough sketch of what I'm going to paint on the other side. So one thing you want to master with this assignment is just making consistent mixtures. You want to be hyper aware of how much paint you're using for each mixture and get that into your memory, into your kind of like tactile memory as well, because it has to do a lot with how much your brush takes off and how much it puts into a mixture. So if you're not aware of every single bristle on the end of your brush and how much it's taking from the white and how much it's taking from the black, you're going to run into some issues here. Try to be super sensitive to that. One way I do that is to check before I use. So I have my reference right here. I highly recommend the way you start this assignment. You start with light values first, so highlights first, and then work your way towards the darker values. So let's start with some white here. Okay, and my white is actually extremely dry. So got some white here, and maybe a little bit of black for the light value. Okay, just to get that kind of started right there. And I'm going to check. So let's see if that matches. Now the value on my printout is kind of off-ish. It's a little off-white, but pretty close, right? Nice light value there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that area of my palette separate all the other mixtures I'm going to make. And I can fill my mixtures up through here. I can fill them through the middle of the palette. This is a color palette though, so as you can see I've got all my other various colors around here. And I don't want to cross-contaminate it, so I'm probably going to keep it up here where everything's sort of dry and ready to go. So once I got my mixture, okay, I can go on to my painting here. And what I recommend you do is paint each section that color first, okay? And then work your way out from there to the darker values. And always go back to the same location, always check, okay? If you're not checking, then you're going to run into some issues with your values being inconsistent, or you're going to run into issues where you make it a little bit too dark, a little bit too light. As you can see when I paint on here with my lightest value, it's actually a little bit darker than the paper, and that's okay. We can have a darker relative value for the light value here, and then I can work my way into the darker values after that. So again, my lighter values seem to be on areas that would have highlights, so areas like the teeth, down here by the chin, okay? My shirt is actually whiter than that, and we can just go with straight white for that, but right now I'm just working on the lighter values. It doesn't necessarily matter that I make these the exact size or the exact shape just yet. Because they are the lightest gray, I can paint over them with my next value. So let's do that. These probably won't dry in time either, but let's say we got the next value up to go. So the next value after this would have a little bit more gray in it. We can start a separate mixture. Again, be sensitive of how much white, how much black you use. And if I keep these mixtures close, like if I keep them right next to each other, I can really balance how much black goes into this one. I need enough to make a difference and enough to be just one jump lower than this, but not so big that I go to the next value altogether. Okay? So that's quite a bit of black right there. A little bit too dark, but it is darker than this, so we do have the right amount up. I can add a little bit more white to that to kind of balance that out. Okay, and as you can see on my my image here, it's not that big of a jump actually. It's kind of a subtle jump, so I don't need a lot to make the jump here, just enough to create a difference. And you'll see as I paint on here, okay, it's a little bit darker, but not too dark, okay? And it somewhat matches my printout here. Again, my printout's a little bit warm gray. It's not quite the true gray I need. So as I'm painting on my forehead here, you can notice that it is darker by just a hair, okay? And I can actually change the shape of this. So the actual forehead highlight here kind of fades out in and around here. So because this is too big, I can paint over that easily, okay? And again, I'm painting on paper, so my paper's going to warp a lot. I might not get crisp edges because I didn't really wait for this to dry. But when you're painting on another surface, a much sturdier surface, these won't be issues for you. And you want to try to get crisp edges with this. I'm not necessarily, if you look at it, going to get all of these little pixelated shapes in here. If you don't have a solid line like you do down here from your posterization, that's okay. You can make it kind of a harder, crisper edge if you want. And wherever you make that edge is totally up to you. I expect you to try to practice your crisp edges when you paint for this portrait. So area around the nose here. Okay. Got to make sure my mixtures are thorough. That one wasn't quite thorough. I'd probably switch brushes for detail like this. My example is a little bit too small for this brush, but you get the major idea here. Now, as I go, I want to keep these mixtures in their own areas. I want to keep mixing as I go. You don't need to make one giant mixture, okay? If you do that, what will happen is you'll rely on that mixture too heavily. You'll paint a very large area with it, and then you'll go to paint another large area and try to match the mixture, and you won't quite get too close. You just won't. I mean, you'll get kind of close, but it'll be just off enough for you to notice, and then you'll have two large areas that are different values when they're meant to be the same value. Okay? If I make small mixtures and I keep those small mixtures consistent as I go, that builds my memory faster, so I remember how to make that mixture, and it keeps it consistent because I'm constantly matching it, and I'm constantly going step to step to step, the same step each time, and keeping that as consistent as I can. So if there is a change between a small mixture and another small mixture of the same value, it's so subtle you can't really tell. And then I kind of have that mixture mastered. So especially, you know, when it comes to this light gray that's used throughout here, it's used predominantly in the face, but it's also down here in parts of the shirt, maybe a little bit in the background. If I consistently sit with this mixture and continue to mix it over and over and over again, always going for what's surrounding it in my palette here, and always using the same small amounts of paint, then I'm going to get really, really, really good at matching that, which is kind of the muscle memory I want you to build here. If you don't have that muscle memory from making the same mixture over again, or trying to match it to other areas that are the same value, okay, then you're going to kind of lose one of the fundamental things this assignment's trying to show you, which is consistency. Not so much, let's make this look like the person we're painting. It's let's keep this color consistent. That can be one of the biggest frustrations when you're painting. So please consider that while you practice this assignment, while you're doing this assignment, that you want to make small mixtures, keep them consistent, and you need the whole value range. I'm not going to walk through and paint this entire thing, but I do have about 6 or 7 values in here, and I want to make at least the same 6 or 7 value steps in my painting. It's okay if they're not quite the same value steps as my reference here. Obviously, the grays I made weren't perfect, but you should be able to see those steps. And yeah, that's kind of all you need to consider for this assignment. Have fun.